I was like, this was me a second ago. Like, song's almost over. I've got to do the intro thing, say hi to everyone, and I'm like, where's the mic? It had been sent out of the way. Oh man, how are you? How are you? All of you lovely people, how are you? Just saying hi to people here. Let's see. Kimberly Brown, by the way, loved your comment. Love your comment, Kimberly. So, this is so funny. But yes, thank you so much for your comments. See, I do answer them. Hi, Lalo, my Joe, Todd, Latin DJ, Westside T, Alfonso. By the way, rock on, Esther. Play that violin. Ren 460, J Wires. Oh boy, now it's going fast. Oh boy, I try. So first off, yeah, I'm gonna start my little timer thingamajig, so I'm not like overdoing my thing. I'm a little burned. This week has been hyper real, man. Hyper real. I've been sending out CDs all week long, finally getting them out, and this is a big deal because, you know, it is a big deal. So I've been getting them out, multiple trips to the post office, people like giving me their laser eyes in the back of my head as I stand in line, you know, that kind of thing. And trying to catch up on the projects that I've, you know, fallen behind on, to great detriment, I should say. But I've learned a few new things along the way, and was listening to some podcasts, which, by the way, I need to do a quick apology here. I was on a podcast this last week. It was unbelievably good. And I've not posted all the links, and I'm sorry for that. I will be posting the links on Monday morning for the podcast that I did with, it's called the New Wave Podcast, and it was really good conversation. But this week, I just had no absolute time to post anything other than I'm trying to catch up. So it's been a bit crazy, you know. So I'm going to tell you how tonight's going to work. I have some songs picked out because they are part of the theme, as it were. And the other thing is, I hadn't really, well, it's not that I hadn't had a theme. Usually what happens is, well, I'll tell you. Sorry, I digress. You know what that means. Antonio says, hi, Claude, heading home from the Johnny Marr gig in Philly. How was that, man? So it's late over there. How was it? Tell us all about it. So, David on Meta already started the thing that we're going to do tonight, sort of. So, let me explain where we are. We're 3 weeks into the release of the new album. In case you don't know, there is a new album. In fact, here, I will show you. That's it. That's the one. And let's see if it'll even show me this. Will it show it? Oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's its cover. And yeah, it's out. And it is oops, sorry. It is Bandcamp Friday after all, right? But it's always Bandcamp Friday somewhere. I'm kidding. But yeah. Well, let me put it to you this way. For those that are asking for the link to the podcast, I'm not going to post them yet. It's going to be posted on Monday or over the weekend because it appears in several places and I kind of want to promote it really well. So I'm not going to post the link here tonight. I won't do it. Or maybe I should. We'll see. No, maybe I will. Maybe I'll post it while we're listening to the next song. And that would be fun. I'll tell you what I almost did. I was this close. I was like this close to doing this tonight, which was I was going to put on the podcast on autopilot and not be on the stream at all because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to play. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to do. So anyway, yeah, that was rough. But I don't know. J Money says CD arrived to some. I doubt it because they started going out on Monday, or I think it was Monday when they started going out. So I doubt it because it goes media mail. But as it were, I have a copy in my hand, and so yeah. Although mine is a special copy. Because this is the thing you can't do with mine. Even if I hold it up to the screen, you can't scan it. Yeah, you cannot. Only people that have the CD can scan it, and there's a reason for that. There's a perk in there. But yeah, no, it's real. It's here. For those who don't believe it, I have one in my hand. Look at this beautiful, lovely thing. Glassmaster and all. But yes, no, they're here. That's a good thing. Oh wow, Wendy, you already got yours? That is tight, my friend. That is really tight. That's really cool. Gosh, I gotta give it up to the post office for that, because if yours got there, it got there within a day and a half. So that's fantastic. Good. Even a lot of the internationals have gone out. So I think I'm down to 80 that still need to go out, but that will continue throughout the rest of the week / days. That's awesome. Number 25 to boot. Yeah, there's a lot to say about all that, but in time. But so yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, anyway, it's been a busy week because I've been going back and forth between post office, garage, packing things, having to go crazy to repack these CDs because I gotta tell you, man, it's been a little nuts. So, yours? Oh, nice to see you on the chat, Claudio. Well, I can be honest with that. They didn't all go out on the same day, obviously, because Monday it started, and I think 70 or so went out on Monday, 50 or so Tuesday, 50 or so Wednesday, and so forth. And some went out today. And I happen to know that a few of you who are on the chat, yours went out today because it depends on where your number was in the queue type of thing. But yeah, but it'll get there. I promise. I mean, I hope. I hope it's not one of those crazy things, because I had a few of the 12 inches come back all warped and funky, and I had to resend them out, which is kind of like messed up. I did, in fact. I did. More on that later. Well, I'll send you a message on that privately, Miss Wessinger. J Money says, I remember buying Peace on a long box CD. I should keep it. Yeah. Or you're saying I should have kept it. Yeah. So interesting things coming up. Well, let me play a song. I'm just going to play songs, and I have to explain tonight. So this is what we're going to do. When we come back, I'm going to talk for a little bit. We'll talk about the topic at hand, which is kind of a strange one. And I don't mean it to be clickbaity, because it's not like, I don't know. It may sound that way, but it wasn't meant to be. But yes, there is it's a broad subject, but it was brought up for the possible topic of last week, and we started in on it, but then we kind of got sidetracked and a little bit politicized back and forth, and I can't stand when that happens. So I'm going to try to avoid that this week, but the subject I'm going to bring up is a little funky because it is about the act of quitting, and it has a lot to do with a few posts I've seen around the net recently, particularly from artists and musicians. And so I wanted to address not the actual tweets or the posts or people's thoughts on the subject, because I I can guess that from some of the banter I see online, but it's more along the lines of what do we think about the idea of quitting? So when it comes to music and art and stuff, but of course it could be almost anything. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. But what I wanted to stress was that since I didn't pick specific songs per se that have to do with the subject matter, or in this case, they kind of do. But anyway, sorry. You know what that means? My point is this. As I'm playing a song, you can get your requests in. And if I can figure out during the song how to get to the song that you requested, I will play it. That's what'll happen. And if I don't get to it, then I'm going to play one of the ones that I've got. So I don't know. I don't know if you noticed, but no flyers this week. No preemptiveness on the stream. We are literally flying by the seat of our pants, because usually I have some sort of semblance of what's going to happen. And this week it's been hard. So yes, let's play something. So this song was the first time, or one of the first times, where I thought, is it the end? Is it really the end? Think about it. Is it the end? Whoops. Radio silence.
Welcome to the end. The universe expands. Everyone is glad as the sun descends, and your self-esteem comes back from where it's been. We are all indebted to everything it brings. You know how everything is connected and reflected now.
The universe expands, indeed. Yeah, there was a time like I'll tell you two little stories about quote, So the topic of the day, first of all, let's get back into it. Shh. The topic for today is, when do you call it quits? When indeed. So I'm going to preface this by saying that every so often I'll see like a post on X, or, it's not always on X. Sometimes I see it on Instagram too, where the artist will say, "Oh my God, things are so terrible. I just want, like, the whole world sucks. I'm going to quit. I don't want to ever draw a picture again. I never want to play music again. It's too hard. This crap isn't working. Nobody gives a crap about my music. Blah, 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 blah. I'm quitting." Raise his hand in, desperate attempt to get some clicks and, commentary. Although sometimes, look, it's legit. I know the feeling. I've been there. But then people come in, it's like, "No, no, no, don't do it, don't do it." And then they're like, "Oh, I think I should." "No, you shouldn't." And then it turns into a big engagement thing. And then in the end, they're like, "I won't," which I already knew they wouldn't. I knew they wouldn't because when when the bug really hits you and you're really in it, it doesn't even matter that no one's listening. It doesn't even matter that nobody buys your stuff. It doesn't matter that you don't get exhibits. It doesn't matter that nobody wants to publish your book. It doesn't matter that the gallery doesn't want your paintings hung on their walls. It doesn't matter. You have to do it. There's something about the will that a creative will have to continue in the face of the most terrible adversity you could possibly think of, which is usually going broke. Been there. Going hungry, not having enough money for supplies, like the list is long, reading bad reviews, which is, something I don't recommend anyone do anyway, but people are obsessed with reading the reviews of their records. And then when it's bad, I invariably get the phone call or the email or something, because I have a lot of friends that are in bands, and on occasion I'll get this email that says, "Dude, they just ripped my album to shreds. Like, how could they think this? How could they do this?" It's like, it's a rag. I mean, magazines, all these things, unless you're doing an interview, which I'll get into that too, because that's an interesting subject. Interviews are a little different. But when it comes to magazines, when you send something in, you're not guaranteed just because you sent them a free disc or a free 12-inch that they're going to write something nice about you. It's sort of give or take. They could go in either direction. So for me, it was always this. It was the times that it came over me, the feeling was usually when things were going not good internally with me or the group. Like if the group was in discord over certain things, like let's say touring or, wanting to put out a record while we just put out a record, or not putting out a record fast enough and watching the time go by, these kinds of things would feed that beast that would go in there and go like, "Dude, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?" And it's sort of like, yeah, I get it. You're gonna get burned out. Believe me when I tell you this, you're going to get burned out. No, excuse me. That drink from earlier. So you're gonna get burned out. It's inevitable. Burnout's gonna happen for a variety of reasons, but for the creative, it's usually not what people think. It's not going to be from the overwork. It's not usually going to be from having a lot of touring dates. It's not going to be any of that. It's going to be the interim between touring, meaning the time that you had shows to the time you get them again. That's a time for, quote, depression rearing its ugly head. The other is when you're really close to finishing something, but it's not quite there yet. And you're like, "I need to finish it," because there's this little thing in your head that says, "I can't do anything else. until this is done and it comes out, which is not really true, but it's how we sort of think of it. It's like you can't possibly start on a new project and put everything into it since this one is not complete. I thought about that a lot in this past week, especially because I was going through old hard drives and things of that nature, and I found a lot of stuff that's still not done. And it kind of bummed me out to a certain point. But it's like this. I'd rather be behind the curve than to just get off the street. You know, like to get off the street because you're not catching up. I don't know. I don't know that I go by that. Now, obviously, this is not to say, by the way, that if you just, were in the middle of, well, I'll take the hurricane as an example. If you were in the middle of evacuating and you had to evacuate and take all your stuff and put it in a car, drive out of the state, and then drive back to see if your house was still standing there, and you don't feel like working on stuff, I think you can get a pass. I think it's safe to say you get a pass. And I don't think that that's going to make you quit. In fact, I saw several artists, one who put all their equipment basically on high shelves to try to keep them from getting wet if water did come into the house. And another who had to actually evacuate and leave and come back. And, luckily both those artists got back home and everything is okay. And yet a third, which I read about today, which basically whose wallets were drained, and lost everything, profit-wise, of anything that any money he'd made on his art. And I think that those are reasons to definitely have the feeling that you're going to quit. But what I loved, especially from this particular artist, was that he posted it. Yeah, it happened, but it's more his reaction was more or less gonna sleep this off, figure it out. Tomorrow's another day. Got to start over. Everybody's relying on me. People rely on me. So when I get up, we'll start over again. And that is the way. That is definitely the way. But are there times when it's time to quit? Well, the only real person that can answer that question is you. I'm not here to help you make that decision. And I'm not even going to give you ideas or pointers as to when that is. I can only tell you when I have felt it myself and what happened that got me out of it. And there's a few that come to mind. Before, well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Judd says, aren't there a shitload of alternative musicians from the Carolinas? Absolutely. And I have a feeling that they're all going to come back strong, and they're going to come back even stronger, armed with things to say. And to me, that's really the key factor in this, is what do you have to say? So sometimes, and I'm not saying look, anything that I say, by the way, take with a grain of salt. I'm not the last word on any of this stuff. I'm only an opinion. So it's easy to say, well, finishing projects is easy. Well, it depends. It depends on what the size or scope of the project is. If the scope of the project is immense, meaning that it's a lot of money involved in time and people and a team, touring, I can see how some people would find that very difficult to finish. Projects like I got up to clean my house. Well, I mean, to me, it's not as big of a, Wendy says, do you think it's better to quit on an up career wise? No, I don't. I don't believe the whole idea of quit while you're ahead, because it goes with that whole fame thing, where I feel that fame itself is a lie. So if you get caught up in the trappings of the fame part and then the fame part goes away, there's this illusion that nobody cares. But what if you have a fan base that really is dedicated to you, and it's just the media that doesn't care, or you're not the hot thing right now, should that make you quit? And what I find that happens is that sometimes people will quit when quote, they're ahead, but they weren't really ahead. They were just ahead in the media sphere, or the what I call the fame sphere. But with their fans, they were doing fine. So I would say that no. The answer is no. Never quit. I can literally find no reason. But I will say there have been times when I've had the feeling. And so that's what we're going to explore, is when have those times happened? So for me, during Electrodelica, or I should say before Electrodelica started, we started on that album. That was a huge one, because at that time, a lot of weird things had gone on. And not just internally, but a lot of like personal stuff with me. I'd had a bit of a stint with the IRS, which is, never fun to do. One of my bandmates had left. Everything was in turmoil. I had rented a studio that I thought I was going to be doing music in 24/7, only to find out that basically 20 days into the studio after it was built, that people would stay in that building after hours and sleep there. So they all complained that the noise was too much. And so I had to close that studio right after I rented it out and built it. So those were trying times where I remember coming home and thinking, why am I doing this? Why do I do this? If it's going to cause me this kind of stress, because it is stressful. So no, the answer to that question is no. And I'm not even going to repeat it. So I'm going to play a song that is from 19, which was, it's from a cassette. That's all you're going to know about this. And then for the next one, I have a request that I got in from J Wires. So I got your request in, man. I got it. Yours and someone on Meta who wanted some Carmen remix. So I got those two coming up, so don't worry. So anyway, let's continue, and then I'll tell you all about the Electrodelica era and all the things that happened, because it was pretty bad. And it was, if there was a time that I wanted to quit, it was then. But anyway, I digress. I'll take a swig. I even got show and tell today, which is funny. So, thank you, David. Thank you for that. I'm going to read your comment before I play the song here. David on Meta says, I am beyond grateful for the art you have shared. Oh man, my father passed away last year. Did your music replace the hole left by his passing? Obviously no. But it was there to comfort me. Heaven 60 played over and over in my head. That and others helped. Thanks, David. I mean, sorry for your loss, man. I know, dude, I know what it's like to lose parents. I know, it sucks. Oh, so I think I'm going to play that one too when we get a chance. Whew. Yeah. Sorry, man. But thank you. Thank you for that comment. I read it in real time. See, I didn't read it ahead of time and think, oh, that's a good one. I read it so I could feel it. I'm feeling it. Oh.
Her name will burn in my memory, tainted and torn with misery. I had it To have her in my arms is all I really want from life. To always look in her eyes, the eyes that once held love for me. Maribel, why did you leave my heart on the Paris street? Maribel, why did you bring this emptiness on me? In the wink of an eye, I can see your face. You're staring back at me. In the wink of an eye, I can see myself forever turned to stone. Forever turned to stone. I remember we kissed on the Paris lawns, the downtown cafes and cathedrals. How much freedom we've had, how much we've shared. Why did it have to die you? Why did it have to die you? Maribel, why did you leave my heart on the Paris street? Maribel, why did you leave my heart on the Paris street? Where my life just turned to stone. Where my life just turned to stone.
So anyway, I'm seeing that the chat is going to go into like this weird thing again. Well, at the moment, I will say that there are certain things that can be discussed on the chat that should not be discussed on the stream. So I'm going to leave it at that. So, because I don't know, I don't know all the details of everybody's personal lives, and I understand that things can happen in certain people's lives that I will not be aware of because A, I'm not online 24/7. So that is not something that I'm doing consciously. But again, these are the sort of things, and I'll leave it up to the chat. You can look into it on the chat and then decide for yourselves what take you want to take on this. But that's another thing that happens, is that as you get, and I hate the word, but I'm going to use the word, but as you get celebritydom or popularity in the Pop-Tart sense of the word, there are things that start to come into your psyche, like, and we discussed some of it last week, which was news items and things like that. The other thing that comes up, of course, is other people's lives and their families and their worries and their problems. So I have had fans literally, pass away of natural causes, which is already painful. I have had fans pass away from diseases. I have had fans pass away from being murdered. Yes. I have had fans pass away from suicide, which is actually the worst. And those sorts of things, and friends, just forget my normal, when I say pass away under this umbrella, I'm not referring to my own family. It's different for my own family, because if someone passes away in my family, you may not know about it. I don't always feel a need to tell the world what's going on with my, personal life. I will to some degree, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I had a fight with my girlfriend today, blah, 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 and then have people chime in how I should treat the situation. I'm not apt to say something like, oh, I think I might have said when my mom died, I might have posted it, but I think it was quickly shoved under the rug because it's not something that I like to share. But when fans pass away, it becomes heightened, because I will definitely see their family members. I will definitely see their friends, their siblings, sometimes their parents at shows, and it's extremely painful. And but that is something that I have to deal with, and it does happen. And does this make me feel like quitting? If that's the question, no, it never does. That never actually enters my mind. In fact, those are the things that always tell me you must continue, because, and I know this is going to sound shitty, but you've been blessed to wake up another day. You've been blessed that you can still draw while maybe this person who died can't. You've been blessed to keep playing music while this other person that you liked that was in this band can't do that anymore. You can get up tomorrow and do an entry on your journal, whereas this fan that you used to follow that was very poetic no longer can. So those markers for me, just me, those markers for me never make me feel like quitting on anything. It's just, that's not it. It hurts. It definitely has an effect on me. If anything, I try to get into their mindset or their head, and I try to like immortalize them in some way that I can, whether it's, some people someday will never see this, but sometimes I'll write a song about someone and I'll sing it to myself. I'll record it for myself, and it's like, that was for you, man. And it's between you and me. And, that's it. That's one way that I can deal with such things. But I would say that in and of itself will never make me feel like quitting. Quitting is usually something more akin to the idea that, everything you're trying isn't working. And it's not in the cards for me to feel like quitting to begin with. I'm not a quitter. but that doesn't mean I've never had the feelings. Of course I've had the feelings. So I was going to tell you what happened with Electrodelica. So rather than making this segment long-winded, I'll tell you what happened. So I had been severely burned out after Hope came out, but mostly because we had taken on tasks that we had never taken on before. We were now a label, the producers of a record, the marketing company for a record. We had to do everything ourselves 24/7, and it was really hard. And Hope was a very popular album, so that actually made it harder, because now we were like, it would have been okay if it was like a little bit at a time, and we were like, okay, we can do this, we can acclimate to this. It was like instant, oh my God, barrage of work. And 24/7 I was working. I mean, I remember like sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night trying to get Hope done. Not just the album part, but the aftermath was even worse. I think it took 4 years to like get off of it, where it was just like the craziest ride. And so when I had the opportunity to sign to another label, I jumped on it. A lot of people will sometimes ask, like, why did you sign to Jarrett Records? What was it about Jarrett Records? The reality of it was, I remember this really clearly. I basically met David Jarrett. We had a beer and we were like talking. They had visited me in California, basically Rhythmus at that time. And I said, we need to work this out, because I don't want to pack anything anymore. I don't want to be the one that talks to radio stations. I don't want to do any of that. All I want to do is be in the studio, make noise, make the art part, give it to you, you put it out. Can we do that? That was the way that we made our deal. That was like literally our handshake deal, was like, I'll do all the art part, you just do all the other part, because I don't want to think about it. That was the impetus of like, I was going to quit, because I couldn't handle the workload. Now, since then, I've accumulated years of experience to kind of sift it, And again, I say this from someone saying this to be, quote, grateful. I am grateful because, for example, the only pressure that I really have is to perform. So if I have a show, I just have to be on my A game when I'm performing. That's the only real pressure. Other than that, if I'm home and I can't seem to come up with a bass line for a song, I have the luxury of just saving it for another day. There's no one holding a gun to my head that says, you need to put this record out now, finish this bass line. Like, that's just not happening. So aside from the pressure I put on myself, which is mind-boggling, most people wouldn't even survive it. So I'm telling you these stories for the purpose of trying to give the creatives out there, and maybe not so much some of you are not going to be, quote, creatives. You're going to say, I work as a plumber and I feel like quitting sometimes, but it makes good money and I bought my house with the money I made as a plumber and I can't seem to quit now because this is my life. Well, you're not going to quit, because you're right. You have all these things and you're going to fight for them in any way you can. So I understand, but that doesn't mean you don't have the feeling. And it's the feeling that you have to overcome. It's not so much the act, because I feel like the act isn't going to happen. Most people that say it aren't going to do it, unless, of course, they never intended to follow through in the first place. Meaning from the very first time, they already put the I'm going to lose mentality ahead of the curve. Then I kind of know, like, this person's not going to last 5 years. I can tell sometimes when I see a band where they're going to be in 5 years, just by the way they interact with each other on stage, off stage, with fans, without their fans being there, how they are on social media. Like, I can always tell, because there's some telltale signs where it's like, they're expecting a bit too much from whatever the stage is that they're at. So that's going to implode in some way unless they learn some life lessons. And inevitably, I've learned to see it. I can't unsee it. Unfortunately, I've been doing this for way too long and met too many creative people. So I can tell you at a distance, I can tell you where that person sits in the spectrum of they're going to quit or not quit. Sad, but true. Steve says, having now gone through my second hurricane in 5 years, I'll say it's definitely not an enjoyable experience. My phone and weather radio constantly going off for flash flood warnings and then tornadoes. Not easy. And yet, you are not a quitter, my friend. I know you aren't. That's because I know Steve. Steve's not a quitter. So, in fact, Steve's so much not a quitter that when Steve used to live closer to me, Steve was always there to make sure that I was not a quitter. So I can vouch for that. By the way, Steve, I'm glad you're among us still. I was thinking about you last night. I was like, I haven't heard from him. What's going on? So, it is what it is. Let's play a song. I'm going to play one of the requests now. This was J-Wires. I believe this was J-Wires. God, I hope I didn't mess this up. But he requested Rise the demo, but there is no demo of Rise. There's only the real recording. That's what I'm going to play. Let's turn on some, I don't know what. Yeah, Moon sounds good. Moon is good for this song. Rise.
I can watch the time go by like a broken tape machine, playing over all the parts of a forgotten scene. so high above the great divided sky. We can make ourselves believe we know the reasons why. So rise, we will rise above it all. 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 We will all ascend.
Thank you. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, Isaiah, for that super chat. That was really nice, man. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for the compliment. So hopefully you didn't think this was clickbaity, but no, I don't have intentions of quitting. But I've had those certain times where, you know, it came close, but it was because, like I said, certain things. Like another time that I can tell you about is, oh man, I think it was right before. Yeah, I want to say it was right before Universe, or right after, where I thought I was where I literally walked out of a rehearsal with the full band, and I was like, I was the one that was like, I quit, and I left. And I still have that journal somewhere where I had like the whole I quit journal. And I remember just telling them that I was like, just done. And it's because there was all these creative mishmashing going on where half the camp wanted to go in one direction, the other half wanted to go another. And I felt like I was always the mediator, but I wasn't really the mediator because I was the main creative. So it became like one of those situations where I felt like I was being pulled into two different directions. And sometimes I'm not good with the conflict thing. So, you know, oh yeah. Steve says Kulaks was another almost done moment. Absolutely. I remember. So in and around that period, same time period, I remember like how much, like, first of all, Live at Kulaks, which is on Bandcamp, little shill there, but Live at Kulaks was an acoustic show, which we had never done a full show that was going to be an acoustic show. So we decided to do an acoustic show. So we had to rewrite basically 10, 14 songs. I think it was 14 in total. Rewrite them and figure out how to play them live in a way that would make sense, and then go perform it. No machines running, nothing. And that almost killed us. I remember, I think all of us walked out of rehearsal at one point during that era, over a gig. Brian says, sometimes saying I quit is very cathartic. Exactly. Sometimes you have to say it just to know, like, this is the supreme feeling right now. And then you come back and you're like, I was kidding. No, but at that time, I remember that it literally took me months. It was months before I was back. I sunk my head into a job, a normal job, put my blinders on and pretended for a long time that there was no such thing as anything box. I didn't even want to hear the word, or the words, whatever you want to call it, the name. But that doesn't mean that, well, the feeling didn't last for long. Obviously, things happened, and then, I think someone offered us a gig somewhere, and it was like such a cool gig that we couldn't turn it down. And I want to say that was Ecuador. And then that's when it all started up again. And then, And then another time that I thought about quitting, well, I'll tell you that story when we come back. But meanwhile, I'll just say this. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay. Like, I mean, when you feel like you're going to like stop doing the work altogether, I don't mean like at the end of the day, you're like, I never want to draw again. But it's one of those things where if you find yourself really believing that you're going to quit enough that you're going to post it, think about the implications of it, because you're the one that's going to have to come back later and explain why you didn't quit, or the backlash of the fans and people who actually do support you to say, after all this time, like, why would you want to stop? You know? So I understand. I mean, taking a break is one thing. I'm glad you're on the chat, Steve. You're helping me out. Oh man, I almost wish I could turn on the phone thing and just have you call in, but you'd have to call my real phone, unfortunately. But oh, Mike's on the chat too. Hi, Mike. Yeah, so it's good to have the feeling, get it out of your system, because getting it out of your system is a big deal, and you should get it. You should always get the feelings out of your system. And if the feelings aren't coming out in the way of like writing, if the feelings aren't coming out in your sound design or your drum playing or your bass playing or your poetry or your sculpture or whatever it is you're doing, if that feeling's not coming out in that direction, yeah, go punch a bag for a little while. Open up a journal and say, I want to quit, and write that about 50 times. And I'm sure after the 50th time, you'll be like, well, I don't really want to quit. I'm just upset because, and whatever the reason is going to come up. And then you can actually assess the reason and see if it's doable. I would never really walk away from it. I couldn't. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. And believe me, there's been times, like I said, there's been a plethora of times when I've wanted to. But, you know, anyway, I'm going to play a song now. I'm going to play a song because, yeah, I better. This one was a request from David on Meta. Well, he didn't actually request it. He brought it up, and I thought this was a good one because this one was a feeling of wanting to quit. And it was when I had, this is a weird thing to say, because for David, if you're listening, I wrote this track when my dad passed away. So this was my little, I mentioned him in it, but it was my little ode to my dad when he passed. So, yeah. I am crazy for doing this stuff.
I stumbled on a hillside begging for the answer to a dream where I turned myself to stone. And in the dream there was a girl, she shook my hand, I said hello. It folded as I crumbled. I don't know why all the rains must always fall onto me. Just then the birds that flew all took me in their wings, and then I knew everything is surely something. My father died, never knowing what it was, and it was plain. It doesn't matter what you do or what you say, just sense the pain. And she said, heaven is the only way to fade. Heaven is the only way to fade. So when I shut my eyes, I cannot wait for the replies from her. I'm sure she'll understand that after all the time is gone, I'll know I'll live my life in full, as great as I can be. And in the dream, the girl reached out into the night. We flew away. I asked her if she had any old regrets that made us stay. And she said, heaven is the only way to fade. Heaven is the only way to fade. And she said, heaven is the only way to. Heaven is the only way to. Heaven is the only way to. Heaven is the only way to fade.
So, welcome back. Thank you for joining me tonight, by the way, all you lovely people, wherever you may be. I'm happy that you're here. It's a strange stream. It's a sad and honorary subject. Let's see. This is the wonderful thing. Like, everyone's out Friday night, going dancing, going drinking, having fun with their friends. What are we talking about? Death, quitting, and more death and quitting. We got to make light of it because life is short, my friends. Or I'm doing the nervous laugh because I don't know where to go emotionally from this. But no, it happens to all of us, especially when tragedy hits, regardless if it's from something as innocuous as the IRS, or your band is splitting apart, and we don't want to do a stupid acoustic show, and it turns out to be one of the best things we ever did, right? So you have to face it, and you have to learn to think differently. And I'm sorry that I can't tell you who said it, but it was because the chat's moving so fast that I can't keep up with it. But someone in the chat said that to quit means losing yourself. And that is the biggest takeaway that I kind of want to draw in to the situation here, which is, you know, that, yeah, when you quit, you're not really just quitting you're not just quitting the music or the art or whatever it is. What it's going to happen is you're just going to have you're going to lose yourself in the process. So, you know, it's very difficult to like come to grips with all of it. So I like to think of it as I can tell that when I'm burned out or when I'm feeling burned out, that those feelings are going to crop up. Why are you doing this? You know, like, why are you spending so much time on this seemingly silly thing? You know? Ooh. Wait a minute. Brent says, Claude, if you haven't played Rubber Gloves Rehearsal Studios in Denton yet, you should. Ooh, I just like the name. I can imagine saying that. I'll be playing at Rubber Gloves Rehearsal Studios. I kind of like that. Where is that, Brent? Just out of curiosity. But Brent says, that's right. You'd be giving up on you. So, someone's saying, what happened to your Friday evening pizza? They're like, it's happening. It's going to be right after I get out of here. I've got one sitting there waiting for me when I'm done. It'll be nice to just have a nice slice of pizza, a little bit more, something to drink, watch a little TV, and just float off into dreamland. I'm actually looking forward to sleep. I need it. I need my beauty sleep. You know, you can't have a face like this without sleep. Imagine, though. I'm kidding. I'm joking, folks. And I didn't even digress. But what I was going to tell you is that, you know, we forgot the whole news segment. We started it all off, we started it all off coming from one direction, and we forgot the main stuff that we normally do. Ooh, let's see. Steve says, how about this? More revival. A dear friend of mine, and Anything Box, Leodorus is releasing a new album. First in 14 years. Yeah, see what I mean? Like, you always have to come back. I always knew that there was going to be more, you know, but I don't know that I would call it a revival. I don't think he ever stopped. I don't think Leodorus ever stopped making music. I think it was just a different pace. So I don't know. I mean, I followed Jason on and off for the entire time, and I don't think that he's ever stopped making music. I just think he changed the trajectory, which could happen to me too. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Been thinking a lot about release schedules for next year, and I can tell you that I have so many projects coming up, especially for 2025, 2026, that I don't know that I would be able to work on a record while releasing other things that I'm planning. You know, it depends a lot on what happens in the legal side of things, but you know, I can't talk about it yet. But let's just say that there are 2 books in the future in the next coming year or so that are going to be very interesting, and I hope that I have time to do them. Jim, don't make me pull the cilantro card on you. That's funny. Yeah, no, like, so I'm happy that Leodorus has a new album out. So yes, Leodorus has a new album out. And Steve, you should, but now that you're shilling for Leodorus on my stream, which is fine, and I'm just joshing you, I think you should put the link to the album on the chat, because I think that would be cool. But yeah. Oh, and for the vinyl junkies, the new album is on vinyl. Is that supposed to be it yet? That was a dig, Steve. That was a dig. Oh, you know, that's so funny. I love it when you guys, when the chat turns into tacos versus pizza. We're in a good. We're getting in a much better space at that point. So I guess this is a good time to, since we're all talking food now, since that's what we're going to have a talk about, food. I was leaning into the mic this whole time. I didn't have to. Makes my back hurt. So, yeah, Steve and I had Steve is saying Claude and I had a nice chat about vinyl the other day. No, Steve was asking me about something and I gave him a 20-minute long rant on my anti-vinyl stance. That's pretty much how it went. It wasn't a nice chat at all. I think he was like, okay, he's obviously having a moment. But yeah, so we put the Leodoris link on the chat, so you can go give them some love too, because it is Bandcamp Fridays. But anyway, so the news. Let's just do the news in the middle, since we're coming up to wow, shoot, look at the time. Wow, we have been busy. So we're doing the news almost when the whole thing's over. That's crazy. Okay. The news is I have shows, and the best place to get the tickets is anythingbox.com, because everything's there now. At least I think so. Let me just go check, because I'm not sure, actually. I thought it was. Sorry. This is all real time, by the way. Don't think it isn't. Although someday I was thinking of like doing something sneaky where you think I'm doing live, but I'm not. But I thought that would be funny in a different way, but I won't tell you. Yeah, they're all there. So I'll just webcap it and just run through them real quick so that people know. Saturday, November 2nd in New Jersey. That's right. Celebrating the Pipeline, the Loop, and Aldo's. That's going to be Saturday, November 2nd, Clifton, New Jersey. Then comes Corpus Christi, which is going to be a good one because I haven't been to Corpus in a long time. I think it's been 5 years now. So that's going to be fun. 23rd of November. Wednesday, the 27th, I will be in San Antonio at Sam's, which is one of my favorite venues ever to play. I can say that really honestly. I really love that venue. Friday, the 29th, I will be in Houston in a very little intimate show, special set, in fact, Hinky and Pilot. And, of course, El Paso with the 101 vibes at the Rock House. We're going to be doing, again, a special set, which is another thing that has me sort of a little bit on the stressed out side, I have to admit. So why am I stressed out a little? Well, because I have shows coming up in less than a month, which I've got to do rehearsals for, and I need to finish this book. You know that? Can I tell you something? Talk about not quitting. So I have 2 pages, 2 to do. And I have not been able to get to them this week because I've been going crazy getting everything else done. But as luck would have it, the remainder of the CDs that need to go out of the big pre-order thing, they should be done by Tuesday. And then it becomes like a normal handling of Bandcamp, because I can handle Bandcamp every day, just not at 300 CDs at a time. That's crazy stuff. And yeah, I talk about scaling up and I wonder what that looks like. Like, what does that look like, really? So I don't know. But the good news is that I'm happy that those CDs are going to be all out by Monday or Tuesday. Down to the last 50, I believe. It's like 48 or 49, give or take. But that's doable. And then I'll go back to work on the book, which is funny. I had some show and tell for you all. So I'm going to show you some stuff. Let's do that. And then we'll make it part of the news part, since you've been here this long. So let's turn on the... Yeah, what did I do with it? Oh, here it is. So, are you still with me? I know, it's a little blurry. I can't do anything about it. Sorry. We're in the studio, of course, and this is usually the synth cam, which is pointing in the wrong direction now, somehow. Oh, here we go. This should be good enough. So this thing right here that I'm holding is my scrapbook, where basically all the pages of the book for Other Verses was put together. As you can see, this is really detailed, isn't it? Very detailed work here. But this is how I curated all the art, like what goes where, and then, you know, how I went in and you could see it says done. So I'm literally, to give you an idea, this is the scrapped one, but to give you an idea, this is where I'm at. Right here. Page 38 and 39. They're the only ones that are blank. Everything else is there. So even the liner notes are done, which is kind of funny. So yeah, so the book is done. Here's the disc. So what I thought I would show you for the next 50 seconds is these are some of the contenders for the last 2 pages, because there are a few different things that are happening here. And then these things that I'm going to show you are my books. They are handmade things that will eventually see the light of day in their own way, shape, or form. But the one I wanted to show you the most, I think someone brought it up from another stream, was this one. This particular book is a board book that was a mock-up, but it's not a real mock-up, it's the real thing, just now has to be turned into a full-on, book. And this one is actually complete in a weird way. So this is going to go into production after the book for the album. And 2 or 3 of the pictures in here are also in the new book. So there's an overlap, because I didn't even show you this one. Yet another one. Another book that's here that has to be, sorted. Like, I have to sort through all these sketchbooks and basically figure out what the last 2 panels of the album are going to look like, and then see how much they're going to infringe on, what's coming next. And I don't know if I lost anyone in the chat, because the chat disappeared. But yes. Yeah, the red and yellow one. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, the red and yellow one is this one, which is a very strange picture. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, I think on this camera it looks a little nicer. Yeah, it's a bit out there. Blame it on Mike. It's got a Twin Peaks influence. But yeah, no, actually it's a strange picture, and I can't show it on screen too much because it has a clue to something that I can't tell you about until there's time. That is funny, Jim. There's no words in that book. It'll be popular with Steelers fans. You're so flippin' hilarious, dude. I love you, Jim. That's so funny. You guys are still talking about tacos and pizza. Well, this is a good thing. I suppose we're heading into good territory. Let's play a song. I've got that many people listening. So this was a request from last week. This is for Lalo in Peru. This is Everybody Has a Wish. And right now, like, you guys are making me hungry. Now I want tacos and pizza. For God's sakes. Now I want to eat. Jeez Louise. Okay. Anyway, here we go. Take it away. Ooh, the moon. Ah, it got cut off. I forgot that goes into another song. Ah, that's funny. So, by the way, Sergio, you're gonna hate me for this, but the link didn't work. So shoot me the link to the Spotify itself. Um, Sergio Elia is on the chat, and he has a new song out too. I got to hear it this last week. It's fantastic. You should check it out. So I'm gonna show for everybody else this week. That's what I'm gonna do. I think that's the right thing to do. So he's got a single out called "I Miss You." It's really cool. It's a nice, solid pop dance track, and I like it a lot. Oh, the link worked for you? It didn't work for me at all. I tried it and it wouldn't work. It would not open. Hold on, let me try it again. Yeah, it's for some reason mine is not opening at all. So then it's just me. Something's gone wrong with my. It could be my browser. It could be because I have certain security functions in while I'm streaming to kind of keep the stream stable. So it could be that. But if the link works, use it. So I'll do it again, just so that that's the link I was given. Good. So it works for everybody but me. I think it's because I've got all sorts of cookies and all kinds of stuff set up on my browser to like not function while I'm streaming, so that the stream is very stable. So good. I'm glad. So give it a listen. Good stuff. I have a surprise for you all coming up. But I need to get this one message out before I forget. No, never mind. I won't tell you now. I'll tell you about that next time, because it makes no sense to tell you now. But I will say this: if you get your CD this week, you better scan it, because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the disc in particular, and the book, when the book are released, they have what are known as ever-changing, for lack of a better word, dynamic portals. And some of them will stick around for a while and some will not. So I would definitely suggest you scan your discs that you got this week or next week. Scan them. There's some cool stuff coming. Oh no, you're welcome, man. Sergio's on the stream. No, thank you for saying I'm awesome. I'm just doing my job. Trying to keep all the creatives happy when I can, man, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like when we start and we're trying to get things out, and it's it's hard. It's hard. It's hard no matter what. It's hard later, and it gets harder as time goes on. I used to think it was going to get easier, but it never really got easier. The only thing that is easier is the only thing that's gotten easier is my attitude towards equipment and things, and recording. I think has gotten easier, but the other aspects of it all, I don't think it ever really changes. I think it multiplies. So yeah, make sure that you scan your CDs. Just so you know what I'm talking about. No spoiler alerts, because I'm not going to tell you what you get when you do it, but the inside. No, you can't scan this one. It won't work. You don't think I would show you this so that you could scan it, do you? You cannot scan this one. It won't work. But when you get your CD, that's the first thing you should do. Trust in the project. Things are going to get weird and weirder and weirder as time goes on. I can promise you that. Oh, that's funny, Steve. My shirt is giving you the Kraftwerk Tour de France vibes. Yeah, that's exactly why I bought it. That is actually why I bought it, believe it or not. It was supposed to remind me to actually exercise, but it did everything but. It's like, well, I'm wearing the shirt. Why do I have to ride the bike? I'm kidding, but not really. So during the subject matter, to get back to the subject matter so we can close this thing correctly, another time that I felt like I was going to give it up was right after Distances was done, and then everybody quit. And I was going to have to do, because, I mean, it's simple math, right? Anything box function does, basically it started off as a duo, turned into a trio, at some point was a quintet. Yes, there was 5 of us at one point. Then it was back to 3, and then suddenly it was just me. And I can't think of a time that I felt like I should call it quits than the very first show that I did by myself, which I can remember as if it were yesterday. It was in Houston, and I remember that the setup was really, really not good. The ladder wasn't in place. Like I hadn't planned out like what my live set would be like. So I didn't even have the stand that I tour with. I think we set up on a table, and it was a small show, and it was nice and intimate, but I just remember being really, really like wrecked, nervous, like wrecked beyond belief. And I just remember coming home that night and thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, can I actually pull this off? Like, what am I going to do? Like it literally, like it felt like the scariest moment of my entire life. Like it was like flashed, my life was flashing before my eyes as if I was like dying or something. It felt so terrifying to be up there by myself. And now it's not really that big of a deal. Like now, I mean, it's still scary. It still has its ups and downs, but I got over it. It was a fear. I realized it was irrational, because if I didn't carry on, then how would it carry on? And so to me, that was like a big wake up call to like keep going, and to try to figure out ways to make it better. And I had to study in how to make that better. Oh, I believe that was at E30. Wendy's asking on Meta, where did you perform? So yeah, that was the first show as me by myself was, I believe it was 2016 or 17, one of the two. And it might have even been 2015 now that I think of it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it was at E30. And it was one of the scariest things I ever did, because it was the first time I was by myself. And the funny part was that right after Houston, I had to do Chicago, and Chicago was a sold out show, and it was crazy. And similar circumstances, I kind of had to figure out what to do. But by the time those two were done, I was able to kind of regroup my thoughts, and it was like, okay, you're going to have to think differently. You're going to have to think differently about the way you do things. You're going to have to assume a new identity. And what I mean by that is a reinvention of sorts. The way that you approach things are going to have to change. So these are all scary things, and they will make you think, I'd rather quit than do that, because they were terrifying things. So, therefore, I had to learn new skills. I had to up the game as much as I could. Now, some people might say, well, you didn't do it that well, but maybe, but I'm still doing it. And that's the important thing, is that I've never stopped. And I think that I'm going to close the evening off with the idea that the feeling is good. Use it. Like I always say, never let a bad feeling go to waste. If you have a negative feeling, put it to good use. Write a song with it. write the very core aspect of what that feeling is doing to you, because I feel that that's where the good stuff comes from anyway. So never always put a negative feeling to good use when it comes to songs or art. It won't steer you wrong. So, you know. So here we go. I'm going to play a song now. So this one is from Electrodelica, and it's one that I don't play that often on the stream, but it was one that came up. And I remember, again, that the early stages of Electrodelica were very difficult. Because Electrodelica is essentially the anything box of today, meaning that I did most of Electrodelica by myself. And which was very difficult at the time. But we regrouped towards the end of Electrodelica to go tour. But during the recording, I was pretty much on my own. So this is, well, I'll tell you what it is in a second. I'm lost. Where is it? We'll turn on the moon chat. Senses 5.5.
Have awakened once again. Collectively they seek out to defend all the things that I have been before. Filter all the past wounds through my door. What can I do? What can I say? Perhaps you think I've gone and lost my way. I used to think long ago. And how could I be so wrong? I was draped in closure. You gave me a whisper, took me in from shadows to absorb the tragic. I was out of focus. You have opened my eyes. I was just illusion. You have sculpted new ways inside a soul real. With your my senses were the same. Where I had none, you had six.
Ooh. Da-da, da-da, da-da. So I lost the chat. So the chat just disappeared and then it came back, but it's like so far up the channel that I can't, I don't know. It's just like, shh. It's kind of like doing this thing where it's just like, yeah, it's almost, it's hard to follow at the moment. But, well, thank you for that, Kimberly. Yeah, Thomas Dolby does it really well. He was one of the ones that was a little bit on the inspiring side because he did it by himself, and I happened to see him right at that time. But honestly, the person that changed my perspective on performing alone is a strange source. It was actually Colin Hay. I saw Colin Hay right after I had done the Houston show, and I think it was after Houston and Chicago. And I went to one of these 80s revival shows, and I wasn't playing that night, but I was invited. So I was there in the audience and I could watch, and I was fascinated by Colin Hay. In that he told stories, and he was known for, if there's a band that he was part of a band that was like a 7-piece. So for him to go by himself on stage with an acoustic guitar and still make it work was crazy. And it was fun. And I thought, I can steal from this. I can learn how to do this. And I wish I had gotten a chance to talk to him, because I would have loved to talk to him about it. But he was one of the main inspirations for like being able to figure out what to do on stage and figure it out. So, but earlier, Jim said, this is funny because this is a good question for you, for the what, Jim. But Jim mentioned, how Morrissey went solo, but he didn't really go solo because he still had musicians in the studio. He still had people on stage with him. He didn't go up by himself. So that's the difference. Because for me, it was literally a 360, because I had gone from having bandmates on stage all the time to like having to figure everything out by myself. Not just how the show would run, but playing more, which is something I had vowed I would do. You could argue this point. Someone could argue this point against me, but I would counter that I have played more, not just more shows, but I have played more on stage, period, than I've ever played when I was like as part of a trio. Because when I was in the trio, I didn't have to think about playing all that much. So basically everybody else did the playing, and I might shoot one thing off in the entire night that was going to be my little part, but very little. Towards the end, I had asserted the need and want to play more on stage. And so it was me that I was like, I want to play more stuff. So I would bring the extra equipment, much to everybody's chagrin. And so it started with me like bringing the little Korg Chaos pad, and then it turned into like Chaos pad with the big Chaos pad, and then I need to have a drum set in the back. It's like, so I would play, but on occasion, not the way I do now. Now it could be argued I play like I'm doing something, no matter what it is. I'm doing something on every song. So that is a bit more difficult and more nerve-wracking. And but I do it because I feel like that was part of my growth process to like, well, if I'm going to be on stage by myself, I'm going to play more stuff. I'm going to make it look like a madman factory or something. And, there's going to be tons of things to do. Hence, drums up there, having a ladder up there, having other weird instruments up there, not just having a keyboard in front of me, because that's something I kind of didn't want. I didn't want to do the, one-man band with a keyboard in front of me. I wanted to actually avoid keyboards if I could. The first 3 years of ABOX Spot as just me actually had no keyboards at all. It was just pad stuff. So I would say that I've come a long way in that sense, but believe me when I tell you, there was times where I just thought, this is the end. I can't do this anymore. There's no way I can do this or pull it off. Now I'm like trying to figure out how to get more stuff on stage to play, because I want more. So that's kind of like, where my head's at when it comes to this stuff. But the same goes with art. I think I left the art part out of it in this stream. But to be honest, there's been times where I wanted to stop the art thing too. Because the two careers don't always line up. They're not always harmonious with each other. The fans for each thing is not always in harmony with each other. So a lot of it becomes somewhat difficult sometimes. I'm like, nobody cares about the art. They don't realize how important it is to the music part. And so like, that'll bring me down. And then the other side is when people like praise the art, but they're like, or they don't realize that music is attached to that art too. So doing both to begin with is not easy. So if you're one of those that has to do both, man, I feel for you, because I definitely understand what it's like. It's insane, to want to do this kind of stuff. So anyway, I think I've talked enough. We have 5 minutes left, by the way. And I think I want to end it with a song. And I'm going to end it with a request that came in earlier. I'm going to end this stream with a version of Carmen that is not very common. It was a freebie at some point when we re-released Carmen. But I get it. I hear you, Todd. So, but anyway, when this song's over, you can go back to your tacos, pizzas, death, taxes, and news items. But don't quit. No matter what you do, do not quit. Anyway, this is Carmen in Spanish and English. This is the Spanglish version of Carmen. You can see why we never released it, right? But it was funny. We thought it was funny at the time to do this. So it was a mix that you could only get by going onto the website. And I think it was like some sort of funky hunt. And no, that hunt is no longer available. But who knows? Maybe you'll see it again someday. But anyway, that's what I'm gonna end it off for. This is what I'm gonna end it with. Oh, I'm gonna just have the rest of this drink. Thank you for being here, all of you lovely people. I'm over the moon that there was so many people on the chat and so many people watching and tuning in tonight, because I did nothing, zero this week to promote the stream. Zero. So in the words of my friend Jim and yes, drank properly. David Eastman, that was a great comment. I made art my day job so that music can remain my passion. That's funny. It's almost the opposite on my side, right? But in my case, I got lucky and I was able to somehow pay bills using both. So sometimes one takes up the slack, which is kind of cool. But anyway, on that note, don't quit. Don't quit. I'll leave it at that. Carmen, the Spanglish version. I think it is anyway. We're going to find out. Good night, all you lovely people. And with that, my friends, I say good night. Oh, you lovely, lovely people. Good night.
I'm tired of it. Can't you see it?